go. I believe we are live. What's going on, everybody? I am back. We've got some baseball to talk about, and this is the Yahoo Sports Edition. We are doing a Yahoo-specific MLB strategy show. Joined here with EMAC, and we're going to break it all down. Yahoo is our newest partnership, and I honestly couldn't be more pumped. I know it sounds shilly as I start, but I started playing pretty aggressively on Yahoo during the football season. They were running a lot of their no management fee or even negative management fee tournaments. Stuck around for their basketball tournaments as well. Baseball has some excellent tournament. They had an incredible Masters tournament with no management fee. It is by far my first recommendation to anybody that is trying to get into DFS, anybody that wants to play and has a relatively small bankroll. Not that you can't play with a bigger bankroll, but the way that their tournaments are structured with 10 max, no CSV edits, no scripting, and the potential for not having to pay the management fee, it should be the first place that you start your day, because you're not going to find a more advantageous tournament to enter across any site. So I'm really excited to try and build them up more, to talk about them more, and to try and drive people that direction, because I honestly think that the competition is going to be softer, and I think that the tournaments can be better for you. You have less to worry about and less to get you to a break-even number. So, EMAC, how's your Friday going so far?
It's good. We have lots of baseball. I'm playing NHL. Had a nice little NHL night last night.
That's good.
Nothing giant, but enough to earn myself some street cred with the Slack channel. I was in there on Wednesday night. All of a sudden I popped in and I was talking hockey, and they're like, "Wait a second. It's a Wednesday and EMAC's in here talking hockey? What's going on?" So I said, well, playoff hockey's exciting. And then last night was the Capitals, so that was good. We got baseball tonight. Yahoo is one of my favorite things. So here's my fun stories for Yahoo. So last year I was playing, they had what they called, and this was their promotion, Free Money Friday. So they were running $25,000 tournaments, and they did this for probably 6 or 7 Fridays. And then as NFL came in and whatever, they dialed it back a little bit, but they were running $5 entry fee, 10 entry max, and it was filling 60-70%, which was fantastic. Yeah. So I ended up winning. Their top prize was $5,000, and I took that down because I was putting in my 10 lineups every week for $50. But yeah, that carried me. The interesting thing about Yahoo, and now they've changed their pricing just a little, or pardon me, their scoring just a teeny bit, but it actually still goes away. Sorry, my dog is in my office and now she wants out.
No worries.
But anyway, they have changed their scoring just a little bit to enhance individual batter play by upping the home run, decreasing the RBI, and then proportionally, when you look at some other scoring systems, they're hitting for the individual players just a tiny bit higher if you use singles just kind of as your baseline to come up with a commonality. Yep. So what this means is stacking is not always necessary on Yahoo. The other thing about it, you can put in 6 if you want, though.
Yes, you can.
None of the other sites do that. But the pricing is often very tricky to do so, because and we'll get into that, but this is the fascinating thing is and the door opens because she comes back in. So I should have just brought her water in here for her. I'm sure that's what she was getting. But anyway, that's pretty exciting. So a couple other tips and tricks with Yahoo. You can use the optimizers and the crunchers, which are great, but you can't upload the information. So you still hand build. Now, there are quick ways to type. You just type in the name and you get used to it, and it doesn't take very long. But if you're trying to slam in 10 lineups with 10 minutes to go, probably not going to get there, just because it's not as automated as one would think. But that's what keeps the mega apex predators out of there. The other thing is you have beginner games. So depending on how much you've played on Yahoo. Now, I don't remember what it I don't know what it is now, but at one point when I was doing it was 300 entries, not playing in 300 contests. So if you put in 10 entries in a contest, you could do that 30 days, and then you're no longer a beginner. But they have beginner only tournaments that don't usually fill. And two, you're playing against people that really, I don't want to say don't know what they're doing, but don't have the reps that a lot of other people do. So what I did is particularly for NBA, but I did this for baseball a little bit, is I knew how many games I had left. So I would sit out. I would wait for a $25 entry fee contest or a 50 or 100 in basketball, be it somewhere between a 10-man and a 20-man. And if I knew it was going to have at least 2 or 3 empty spots in it, I always hate to say rake free, but empty spots, I would be poised and ready to jump in. And that's what I was doing towards the end there, when I knew I only had about 100 of those contests left. But if you've already burned through them, don't worry. It's still set up for you to have a fighting chance against the normal gamer
here. You ready to talk about this slate? 12 gamer.
Let's jump on in.
Yeah, I just ran a crunch. It is kind of crazy that you can run 6-man stacks on Yahoo. I was talking to Alex and Tom yesterday, actually. Both of them had their first big wins on Yahoo before they started like really getting into DFS, which I think is really crazy. Yeah. Alex,
I had known about it
for like 5K in like one of the first days that they played on Yahoo.
Yeah, I did. My first week there, they were running they didn't really know what they were doing then, and so they'd run 7 or 8 baseball tournaments that were all basically, they said no contest is going to be more than $10,000 or $12,000, whatever it was, but they had $1,000 top prize, but they were run like 7 of them at the same time on the same slate. That's just what they were doing. And I ended up taking first in one and second in another one. Because at that point people weren't stacking because they didn't understand it, because it was all their season long people. And with the weird scoring, if you made it work just so, you could kind of get there, but it wouldn't be the Yankees or Boston or something like that. You'd have to go find one. But yeah, I had a nice bankroll there. I was looking at my history, and that was my first week. I was able to withdraw $2,000 on a $200 deposit.
That's always good. That's always good. So we're going to just take a lap through the 12 games. Take a look at some of the pricing that stands out. I'll look back at my crunches to point out some of the exposures that I'm getting through my model. And then at the end, we'll sift through the lineups that I've crunched out and try to find what we would say would be like a good tournament lineup, something that we would want to put in there out of those 150, figure out what we think is the best. We'll build that out for everybody else. Ready to get started?
Sounds good.
Let's do it. Nats and Pirates, first game up, 4.8 run implied total for the Nats, 3.7 for the Pirates. We've got Pat Corbin going for Washington. He is $47. We have Trevor Williams going for the Pirates. He is $38 for reference. In my original crunch, not getting to a lot of these guys. I got 9% to Pat Corbin. I only got 1% of Trevor Williams. I don't find this to be a really great spot for Corbin. The Pirates' projected lineup does not strike out all that often, so he's actually getting a ton of ownership. Projected for 27. I'm not sure that I'm going to be getting there today. How do you feel about Corbin or potentially Trevor Williams?
So this is a perfect place to start for Yahoo. So one of the nuances is their pitcher pricing, and you got to play 2 of them. Their pitching floor is $25. Yeah. So you're going to find fit starters, the occasional call up, somebody, like Chad Bettis is down there today, I think. So those are the guys that are
3 guys at 25 today: Kyle Wright, Ryan Yarbrough, Chad Bettis.
Okay, so that's exactly like what you think a $25 pitcher is going to be.
Yeah.
We've got guys at 28 and 29 that all of a sudden are intriguing. At the top end, the highest you'll pretty much ever see a pitcher is like between 60 and 62, maybe 63. That's when Chris Sale or Max Scherzer or Justin Verlander is coming off a hot stretch and they've got a good matchup. So that's the high end. That's a huge chunk of your salary cap. So today, the highest pitcher is Carrasco at 52, and then Corbin is number 2 at 47. If you put both those guys into your lineup, you're going to end up with $12 left for your position players. So that's doable, but you're going to forego a bunch of bats in those cases. So yeah. I think the spot for Corbin is okay, but paying that much for him, I'd rather find the $5 to get the Carrasco, or I'm willing to drop, and we'll talk about these guys more when we get to the games, drop to Happ, weather depending, or go all the way down to a couple guys in the mid 30s or that low end, and we'll explain the ramifications of that. So that's what makes it really interesting on Yahoo. It's like, well, Patrick Corbin's in a fine spot. Pittsburgh strikes out a little more than we think with this current iteration, but it's barely at league average, as Josh mentioned. So it's not great. Plus, right now I can hear it raining outside here, and there's I'm about 30 miles away from the stadium, and it looks like there could be some rain throughout the day this evening. So it could be a little bit dicey with Corbin. If we look at the pitchers here, I'm not really excited or the hitters, I'm not really excited for anybody on either side. Juan Soto at 24 is a little spendy. You're going to see him priced right around some really nice Red Sox options tonight. And then Brian Dozier at the bargain of $7, even in a righty-righty matchup. If he's batting near the top of the order, he would be an okay punt play. But I don't like anybody on the Pirates side.
Yeah, I didn't really get to either of these teams as stacks. I didn't really get to Corbin as a starter. I'm totally on board with you. I would rather go up further to Carrasco. I don't see that, I have Carrasco's ceiling like many multiples higher than Corbin, just because of matchup, because of the fact that he's just simply a better pitcher. Doesn't hurt. So I'd be more likely to drop down to Happ, as you mentioned, Erod, Jake Arrieta. I don't get the sense that I would be giving that sort of love to Corbin. And for the bats, I didn't get more than 1% as a full stack for the Nats or the Pirates. If I'm pointing out individual guys that stand out to me, Brian Dozier is going to be a very popular cash option on Yahoo. He is a $7 second base option, hitting second, grades out really well for that. He's projected for 35% ownership, which makes sense to me, but very chalky. Looks like a really nice cash play. No one else grading out all that impressively for me. Adam Eaton, projected for 7% ownership, would probably be my second favorite guy here. On the Pirates side, Cervelli getting 12% ownership, a lot to do with just being the catcher, but no one grading out as any sort of fantastic play. Kang is projected for 4% ownership. He grades out as the best dollar for dollar play on the Pirates, but mostly I'm just trying to avoid this game.
All right. Do I get to be lofty for a second?
Sure.
It's Young-Ho Gung.
Gung?
Gung.
Gung, that K is a G?
We have to set aside all Western pronunciation when it comes to his name.
Gung.
But I've listened to the Pirates broadcast just to make sure I'm doing that right. But he sat out last year. Well, he was in Korea because he had some off the field DUI issues.
Doesn't he have like a lot of them?
I thought it's somewhere between 3 and 8.
Yeah. More than one is a lot, and I know that it's more than one.
It's well more than it's enough. And I just can't remember if they're one of the stricter countries, which I wish we were, or like the Scandinavians. You get 1, 2, you lose your license. So it's like, okay, you have.
I have an acquaintance here in North Carolina that gets one like it's a scheduled holiday. He's not allowed to use Uber anymore. He's not allowed to use Lyft anymore. He's not allowed to go to most bars anymore. He's just really bad at alcohol, but is clearly an alcoholic. And he just racks up DUIs like he's trying to do it. Okay, so they have the pronunciation on Baseball Reference. The pronunciation in all caps, Gahng. So while I agree with what you just said, I wouldn't even know how to read that and then say it. Those letters have never gone together for me.
Yeah, I'm just going phonetically off what the broadcasters said.
Yeah. So, Young-Ho Gung, right?
Yes.
Gung.
It's because it's not quite gong, but it's not quite gung or gun. It's kind of if you just hit a hard guttural G and then just let it trail off, you'll be all right.
So JHK.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I think we can go ahead and move on to Yankees and White Sox. 5.7 run implied total for the Yanks, 3.8 for the White Sox. J.A. Happ is on the bump from New York. Lucas Giolito going for the White Sox. Happ, a $43 pitcher. Giolito, $29. If I'm looking at it, I don't love going to Giolito. I think there are some better options if I need to pay down. As for J.A. Happ, he grades out as my second favorite starter on the entire slate. relative to salary. He's also very popular, 30% projected ownership. I think that makes perfect sense. If I look back to my crunches, I got Happ at 30%. So right along there with the field. I did not get Luke Giolito at all. How do you feel about either one of these pitchers?
So, setting aside potential weather issues, which there could be there in New York with some rain, if we focus on Happ, this is a terrific matchup for him. He really only needs to worry about Abreu, Wellington, Castillo, and then depending on where Tim Anderson is in the lineup. If he's up near second, that's good for us, which he usually gets a boost from around the 6-7 spot up towards the top of the order.
Yeah.
The last couple seasons when they're facing a lefty. Outside of those guys, there really is no power here on the White Sox from their righties. And that's a bit of a problem because they're a very righty-heavy lineup, which if you look at what is being projected right now, it's definitely in Happ's favor.
Yeah.
Now, Happ has an amazing strikeout rate over his last, over his last 1,300 batters. It's combined just shy of 25%, of course, as expected, 23 to righties, 50 to left, or 25 to lefties. So it's relatively even. Lefties, he's as expected, he doesn't give up any power to whatsoever. Righties, not a lot. Now, yes, there are a lot of righties here, but who is that? I was going to say it's Luis Garcia, but I think it is Luis Garcia. Luis Garcia going against or at leadoff has literally no power. Yohan Moncada has no power.
And also no ability to hit a left-hander.
Yes, righties we like him against, but lefties no chance. I don't even think he should switch hit anymore at this point. But and then Adam, don't call him Josh Engel. Not a lot of power down there at the bottom. You have James McCann who can run into one from time to time, but whatever. So Happ should be popular and for good reason.
Yep.
But with the pricing here, Wellington Castillo, I wrote him up in our free article that's on the Osmo homepage, focusing on Yahoo strategy. He's batting cleanup. He's minimum price. Just put him in your lineup. Yep. and move on from catcher today.
Yeah, I got quite a bit of 5-man Yankee stacks. I did not get much coming from the White Sox side. I think from a Yankees perspective, Gardner, Judge, Sanchez, Bird looks fantastic. You can really rotate in whoever you would like. Only guy that I don't have much interest in would be DJ LeMahieu if he does play. I think he's a bit overpriced, not grading out all that well for me. Yankees are a little bit popular. Gardner and Bird both in the 20s in ownership. So I have no problem following that along. Giolito is certainly prone to get bombed. I completely agree with your Wellington Castillo take. He is projected for 21% ownership. He grades out as the clear best option from the White Sox for me. So I understand he is likely to be a relatively chalky cash catcher option, and I totally understand why. An Abreu, Wellington Castillo, Eloy Jimenez, Yonder Alonso stack seems like it grades out well for me. I can't imagine that I would actually get to it, and those guys are projecting for no ownership. But in a vacuum, they're all grading out relatively well in my model.
Interesting. Who would they? Oh, probably. Would it be Rondon? Would not? No, because he's second base. I was just because there's multiple projected lineups out there. I was just trying to figure out how Moncada would get in.
Moncada is actually hitting 5th in this projected lineup. So it goes Abreu, Castillo, Moncada, Jimenez, Alonso.
Alonso, sorry, yeah, Yonder. Where is Yonder?
7th in my projected lineup.
Okay,
but it's not out of the realm of possibility that he does not play here. This is not exactly a good Yonder Alonso spot, lefty, and he is notoriously atrocious against lefties.
Yeah, I have it. It's just trying to rememorize all the who's on which teams
sure.
and which crappy corner infielder is platooning. Where's Jeffrey Marte, or where's some of these guys that you see? You're like, oh, that's where he is this year.
Yeah,
I remember that. But I'm trying to think of the guy who used to be the first baseman, third baseman on Yahoo, not Farmer.
For the White Sox?
Yeah,
Paul Konerko.
No, after him.
Frank,
him. I know
Frank Thomas.
No, you're going the wrong direction now. I was thinking last year. Sorry, derailed us.
Davidson?
Yes, thank you.
I don't even know how I landed on that.
Well, I don't even know if he's with their team anymore, but he was one of those guys that'd be like, "Oh, he's in the lineup."
Yeah. If I'm right, I'll pat myself on the back for my recall there.
Yeah. No, I think Matt Davidson, I think, is the right one.
All righty. To the Blue Jays we go. Jays and Rays. 4.4 run implied total for the Rays, 4.1 for the Jays. Trent Thornton on the hill for Toronto. The Rays are doing the Ryan Stanek start. I assumed it was Ryan Yarbrough. I've also seen a little buzz that it could be Chirinos. Have you seen anything for these guys today?
I don't know who it's going to be, and I don't ever want to trust them again. And
Yeah.
I think they're doing this on. They're kind of doing it on purpose. They're not. I don't even think they're letting the beat writers aren't even figuring it out, because the first time we saw this happen, they were wrong.
Yeah.
And that's when one of the other sites had put in a probable long reliever designation. I noticed that went away, and now it's something like probable opener.
Okay.
But I had read a blurb that came out about 4 days ago talking about Chirinos getting a nice potential start on Friday or Saturday against Toronto. But if we look tomorrow, who is it? Is it Snell tomorrow or something? It's one of their 2 or 3 starting pitchers tomorrow. And then I didn't know what to do with that because the opener was going today. So I don't really trust it enough, because the game, when it locks when the game starts.
Yep.
So if you're putting in who you think the long reliever guy is, which I did last time, because I bought into, and not all the beat writers were in agreement, but I bought into that, and he didn't play. And then he ended up actually starting the game the next day. So I don't want to take that chance. There's just too many other options tonight.
Yep.
But if you're looking at the hitters on Toronto, you want to think about who probably is coming in. Does anybody gain or lose on the platoon advantage, etc.? Yeah. So that's the only way I would look at it here for this one.
Yeah, I didn't. No matter who the pitcher is for the Rays, it doesn't really change my outlook. I won't be rostering that particular person. As for Thornton, $42 on Yahoo, which is kind of expensive. He's the 6th most expensive pitcher on the slate. He grades out well for me because of his stuff, and the projected Rays lineup has a lot of swing and miss in it. The problem is that J.A. Happ is $1 more, and I think is a much better option. However, we have Thornton projected for almost 0 ownership. And if J.A. Happ continues to garner a lot of it, then I think that Thornton makes for a really interesting pivot if this Rays lineup maintains until we get it fully announced, because I think that there are a lot of strikeouts to be had. Thornton projects with a 9.1 K per 9 via Steamer. For bats, I didn't get to a lot of Jays and Rays stacks. I think the Rays grade out pretty poorly from a price perspective. Rays, on the other hand, I see a lot of value, but not a lot of ownership. I think they'd be more likely to be 2-man stacks for me, or one-offs. Guys like Billy McKinney, Justin Smoke, $9 and $12 respectively. Danny Jansen, catcher option at $7, I think is the best play on the Blue Jays, only getting 10% ownership, which is kind of crazy to me. We're projecting Mike Zunino on the other side of this game at 23% ownership. I prefer Danny Jansen as a $7 catcher to Mike Zunino. So I would go that way, particularly if Jansen is less than half the ownership. Any bats standing out for you?
No, you kind of hit him. Just because the catchers, I'd rather go with Castillo over either guy in this game.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, the only Rays bat that stands out for me is Zunino, but that's just because of positional scarcity.
Yeah, and good point on Smoke. He is what'd you say? I think he was 12. That's relatively solid for someone that's a switch hitter and does have power to both sides.
Yeah, and if Yarbrough comes in, that's not optimal for Smoke, but if Smoke is hitting third, then he's going to get Ryan Stanek, and he's going to get a righty, which is his better side. So if this lineup does start with McKinney, Galvis, and Smoke, they're not great against lefties, which would be negative for Yarbrough, but they're also not going to see Yarbrough. They're going to get Stanek and a righty. So it looks a little bit better for the top of the Blue Jays lineup as of right now. You have anything else in this game?
Nope.
For everybody that's here, don't be afraid to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. It's very, very helpful to us. I dropped the link into the channel earlier with, or to get you to Yahoo. It would be really helpful if you use that link. That is the link that will benefit us the most. You can use the promo code when signing up. Use the promo code Awesemo, and you get, what's the proper terminology? You'll know this more than I would. It's $30 in like Yahoo bucks.
It's YRSPs or something like that. Basically, it's Yahoo reward player points or something like that. But it's available for immediate use. So when you're entering the contest, if you have those, it'll let you pick: do I use my points or do I use cash?
There you go.
There you
are. Heading to the Marlins now. Marlins 3.7 run implied total. Phillies 4.8. The matchup between Sandy Alcantara at $31 and Jake Arrieta at $37. Arrieta getting a little bit of love from the public, 22% expected ownership. I don't have much of an issue with that. He grades out well. He's one of 4 pitchers on the slate that have a projection north of 20. I prefer Arrieta actually to Eduardo Rodriguez, who is the same price. Eduardo Rodriguez projected for twice as much ownership. So I do like getting to Arrieta, but I think there are also other pivots in that salary tier that you can get to that are not getting ownership whatsoever. How do you feel about Arrieta or Alcantara for that matter?
Alcantara, a little expensive for the matchup going against Philly. Granted, this is in Miami. I think Alcantara is interesting, as are a couple of the other youngsters in the Marlins rotation. I think it's various points in appropriate matchups, ballparks, particularly at home, and price point. We will be looking towards them. File them away for later, just not today. Tough matchup here against Philly. With regards to Arrieta, I think he's okay at 37. I'd rather go in other directions just because I don't think the strikeout upside is a common occurrence at this point in his career. His first game against Atlanta this season, he had 6 walks, 6 strikeouts. His next game against Minnesota, 3 walks, 1 strikeout. He went combined 13 innings pitched. There is the bottom third of the lineup here for the Marlins has a heavy strikeout. Brinson, Pete O'Brien, Alfaro, if he's behind the backstop, they all strike out at least 1 in 3 times. That's a lot, but nobody else does on this team. They don't have a lot of power, but it's Neil Walker, it's Castro, it's Brian Anderson. They put the ball in play,
They do.
Which doesn't really help us from choosing them, and it doesn't really help us with going to Arrieta. So for this game, I'm not really excited by players on either side. Probably if we had some more issues with rain in a couple more games, this would come into play. But at this point, we can still be choosy.
Yeah. So I actually got a little bit of 5-man stacks of the Phillies.
Okay.
Which is interesting to me. They're not really getting any ownership, but Bryce Harper grades out really well. 25.
Harper and Hoskins are just going to. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. They're just going to be monsters all season.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Lefty righty matchup for Harper. Not a great park, but just a very easy to get to one-off bat. He's projected for 3% ownership, which is just kind of silly to me. If he's ever at 3, I know that I'm going to have him more than that. I don't mind getting to the top part of this order, so some combination of like McCutchen, Harper, Hoskins. The problem here is that they are very expensive. The Phillies, if you're rostering the Phillies as a stack on Yahoo today, you're probably not going with Carrasco in that lineup. You're spending down for your 2 pitching options, which I think is fine. If they're not getting any ownership, it makes for a different roster construction. You will likely have very little overlap. So you can go to the Phillies, since they're low owned, as a stack, and then go to maybe 2 of the chalkier pitching options. So if it's, Luke Weaver is the chalkiest full pay down option at $27, you can grab Arrieta, you can grab Eduardo Rodriguez in the 30s and save that extra basically like 20 plus bucks from Carrasco. So that's probably the way that you would need to get to it. You ready to talk chalk?
Absolutely.
This one's aggressive. Well, it's aggressive to me. It's not aggressive to the public, evidently. The Boston Red Sox are hosting the Baltimore Orioles. 6.3 run implied total for the Red Sox, 4.2. I made the joke on the earlier show today. You can spot the Orioles a 2-run home run, and they're still the underdogs in this game. The craziness. Nice. Erod is on the hill today for Boston, $37. David Hess on the hill for Baltimore, $30. I'm going to go out there and say right now you should not be spending $30 on David Hess in this spot. Erod, very popular. Second most expected ownership per our ownership rankings, 41%. I get it, but I understand why he's being owned. I do not agree with how much he is being owned. I actually, while I like Eduardo Rodriguez today, and it, clearly a matchup against a team that is a bit hapless when it comes to offense, I can't imagine wanting to have him in 41% of my lineups. Is there something I'm missing here?
I think it's a combination of two things. One, his price, and two, the fact that if you roster him and pay down at the other pitcher spot, you can get some of these Red Sox hitters in your lineup. And I think that's a function of this. I like him. He's probably he and Carrasco are the two I would like to pair with each other if possible. But if you really want to start getting bats, it's Rodriguez and another guy we'll get to. So he's for me kind of the linchpin, and I think that could be the other thing that's affecting his ownership because he's in the middle. Yep. If he was higher, it would probably be less. Lower, it'd probably be more. But this matchup against the Orioles is phenomenal. Outside of Mancini and VR, they don't have anybody to worry about. Rodriguez has a 30% K rate against his last 220 lefties faced, 25% against his last 900 plus righties. So it makes a lot of sense that he's going to be wildly popular, and that's where I'm getting as well.
Yeah, I actually have Arrieta projected higher than him by 2 full points, which really surprised me. I did not see that one coming. And we'll see, that could change when Baltimore's lineup comes out. But in my opinion, the real star of this show is very clearly the Red Sox bats.
Yes.
And we are not giving them all that much ownership. 22% to Benintendi, 17% to Betts. Everyone else is sub 10. I got the Red Sox as a 6-man stack and a 5-man stack more than any other team. I am following the runs in this spot. I would rather rotate through pay down pitching options and roster the Red Sox than do the inverse. So I got lots and lots of this Boston team. They are without question my main priority. If I look at just the way that my exposures came out, there are like 15 guys listed in the table on the left-hand side on Fantasy Cruncher. And if I just ignore pitchers, here's the order of guys. Boston, 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 Texas. Everybody from Boston is grading out higher than basically everyone. I'm fitting them in any combination I can find. They have a implied total of 6.3, which is 0.6 of a run higher than the second most team, a full run ahead of third. This is just a completely different offensive environment. So I am betting on the bats here. I want to be well north of the field when it comes to Red Sox exposure. How do you feel about the Red Sox bats?
Absolutely. So let's just take a minute here to kind of look at some other pricing around them. If we look in the outfield, we've got Martinez and Mookie Betts are at 25. Highest guy tonight is Christian Yelich at 27. Chris with K Davis coming in at 26, and then you got the Red Sox duo. They're right there with Aaron Judge, Bryce Harper, and then you get that all makes sense, right? Yeah. Then it starts to get a little funky because a buck cheaper than them is Conforto, Luis Sojo, Springer, Haniger. You're like, what? Wait, those guys have nothing in common with these first half dozen guys, and that's kind of the beauty of Yahoo is you've got to figure out what's going on here. So while they have some of the more spendy outfielders, which absolutely makes sense, if you look at a couple of their other players, they're not really that crazy, but they're the ones that don't quite have the name that you would think to look for. So Mitch Moreland at 18. Okay, I think that's a good deal. How many other people are going to think that? Because he's still a little bit more than the average hitter price. Once you put in your reasonable pitching, you've got discounted Jackie Bradley, Rafael Devers at 15 is amazing. That's the same price as Jose Ramirez, who we'll chat about. But did we already cover Ramirez?
We did not.
Oh, that was before pre-show. Okay. Perfect. We'll get to him, but I love these guys, and I think you can go with the, 4, 5, 6, 7 is the kind of the point where I'm going to this. I mean, at some point, Dustin Pedroia can still hit doubles, but again, it's more about him getting on base or being pesky. So that one I think is interesting. I wanted to call this out with David Hess. So I pulled out the numbers for David Hess. He has made, I think it's something like 20, let's just call it 26 appearances with 22 starts in his career. 4 of the starts have come against Toronto. In those starts, Josh, he's gone 21 and a third innings with 24 strikeouts and allowed just 2 runs. In his other 92 innings pitched, he has a 5.7 ERA, a 1.5 whip, and he's striking out 6 per 9.
That sounds bad.
So if he could face Toronto all the time, he'd be in the Cy Young conversation. If he had to face anybody else, which he does, he's got to face a couple other teams in the AL East, and he just got gobsmacked there by the Athletics. This is one of those ones that just it's not good.
No, 2 things to say here. Both injury related. Apparently, OG Anunoby had an appendectomy today.
Oh, he's not going to play for the whole series, is he?
Probably not. Playoffs. Speaking as someone that had an appendectomy fairly recently, I can't imagine doing it. I'll never understand how Ben Roethlisberger played a football game like 10 days later.
No, and I mean, even if they do it arthroscopically like they mostly do now, that still doesn't matter because they're going through your stomach muscle, which...
Yeah, I was not in a good way for a while. And then Gary Sanchez to the IL.
Oh, the Yankees deal with the Devils expiring across the board.
Yes, it is.
Oh, boy.
Just got that alert, too, but I know this isn't an NBA show, but the OG and look, Toronto doesn't exactly need OG Anunoby in their first-round series, so that's fine, I guess, but still not optimal. So
wait, which do you think is better right now? The Yankees DL or their active players?
Oh, God, it's getting close to being the IL. We can't be calling it DL anymore.
My apologies.
Yeah. So I just sorted my original crunch to just my Boston 6-man stacks, and I get 2 very unique constructions. The first 2 lineups are Carrasco-Weaver lineups, 6-man Red Sox stacks, slightly different on both sides. The first one has Devers and Bogarts, along with a 2-man Zimmerman-Brian Dozier stack. The second one, which is only separated by 0.9 total fantasy points, we lose Devers and Bogarts. We add Mitch Moreland and Dustin Pedroia, and then we add Gung and Eric Gonzalez as a 2-man Pirate stack. So there are lots of different setups. I get a full 6-man with 2 Yankees. I get a full 6-man with 2 Marlins, 2 A's, 2 Mets. I can get through a lot of Red Sox with different combinations. Lots of Carrasco as well. I get it with Arrieta. I get it with Weaver. I get it with Chad Bettis, which doesn't really make me super excited. I got a Pat Corbin J.A. Happ Red Sox stack. So I really like the differentiation I can even get just by using Boston. I love getting to these Boston bats. It's my clear top priority. They will make up a lot of the stacks that I play today.
And that's a good call out because I don't want our viewers to think that you can't use the optimizer in conjunction with Yahoo. In basketball, I had to use the optimizer because I was missing good plays if I was in a hurry and not paying attention. So I am assuming it will be similar to baseball here, just because there are so many positions. And we've already talked about, I mean, do you want, Wellington Castillo in this particular matchup probably should be $14. Yeah. He's $7. Okay, well, what can I do with that other $7? and where is it best appropriated? And I think an optimizer can give you a lot of different looks because I wouldn't have thought to go to a 6-man Red Sox stacks. But when you're talking about it, they're all in different positions. They're all in good prices relative to the people around them, with the outfielders, as we kind of hit at the top, being the most expensive. But they're deservedly so in this matchup and on this particular player slate.
Yeah, so like what I would do on Fantasy Cruncher, if you have it, you can create an empty crunch and take lineups that you like and copy them over till you get the list of 10 that you want. You can make edits to individual players by hitting the, wrap around arrow number and pick out everybody from a drop down. But you can use the optimizer to build you frameworks and ideas, and then transition those over. Organize yourself into a different crunch. You just have to select the lineup, and click, send to crunch. I can copy that right to crunch 3, and now I can build out the 10 that I'm looking for. I'll get the updated exposures in front of me, so I know if I'm getting to too many of someone, and then I'll just head over to Yahoo and enter them in manually. It's a great combination and allows you to really get a good visual of everything that you're trying to do.
That's a trick I didn't know how to do, Josh.
Well, there you go. The create a blank crunch is relatively new. I used to have to crunch one lineup and then delete it and then start swapping into it. But shout out to Dave, Fantasy Cruncher.
All right.
Yeah, ultimately, I know we spent a lot of time here. I can't recommend the Red Sox enough. Every piece of it looks great. If you want a pay down stack option, I don't hate grabbing some Orioles here. A 4.2 run implied total is not really that bad, given this particular scenario. And if Erod is projected for 40% ownership, I like the idea of having a little bit on the opposite side on the off chance that things go squirrely for him. There's no issue to get to anything at the bottom part of this projected lineup. They are all, they've got 5 guys in their projected lineup sub $10. Renato Nunez is only 13. Joey Ricard only 12. The only things that you have to pay up for are Jonathan VR and Mancini, and that's way easier to do if you're pairing them with other cheap guys. So I don't mind using the Orioles as a hedge stack. Their implied total is not nearly as low as I would have expected.
And I think that's an excellent call out there, Josh, both from, one, leverage against what is going to be the more popular pitching option tonight. But if you're looking at the average price of even those first 4 guys, it's relatively palatable. It works out to about the average of a normal batting slot. So
there we go. I got to double check one thing here. I might be making you really sad. Well, not like really sad, but sad. No Wellington Castillo in the lineup for the White Sox.
That's a blasphemy. Damn it. He was featured in my article. Now I'm going to have to go add somebody.
Sorry about the bad news.
Yeah. Well, Gary Sanchez won't be in the lineup either. So here we go. Mike Zunino, Danny Jansen, apparently the Osmo optimizer or Osmo percentage projection of player ownership knows all.
Yeah. All right, now we can move on, I believe. Unless you have any other Orioles or Red Sox takes.
Nope, that's good.
Perfect. That's good. While we're here, hit that like button, everybody. Don't be afraid to subscribe. Both of those things are super helpful. Super, super helpful. And once again, where did that link go? Did I lose it already? I think I did. Is it there? Nope. Oh, here it is. I'll drop the link to Yahoo in. If you sign up through that link, it's very beneficial for us. Don't want to show you guys too much, but if you do want to play there, please use the link from the chat. It really helps us out and changes nothing for you guys. And you can still use the promo code AWESOMO and get the 30 free Yahoo bucks, which is what I'm going to call them. I hope they're okay with that.
I believe they will be fine.
Yeah, I just assume it's like Camel Cash or anything else. And while you're not able, you can get into contests. You can't buy like a cooler or a kayak or a duffel bag or something like back in the day.
It's Yahoo Sports Rewards points.
There you go. Yahoo Sports Rewards points. That I could actually remember.
YSRP.
Yeah. Marlins and Phillies. No, it's not Marlins and Phillies. Well, I'm going the wrong direction. Braves and Mets. Braves have Kyle Wright on the hill. $25. Zack Wheeler going for the Mets. $44. This game is a relative coin flip. If we look at the exposures, Kyle Wright not getting any ownership, nor should he. There's just no reason to go to something like that. Zack Wheeler, 4th most expensive pitcher on Yahoo at $44. He's not really something that's catching my eye. If I look at the exposure to him from my original crunch, I cannot get this filter to go away on the Red Sox stacks, but maybe if I click this button, it'll work. There we go. I got 2% Zack Wheeler. He's at a salary tier that I find to be really difficult to get to. This Braves team doesn't strike out all that much, so I don't think that I can really recommend paying up for Wheeler. Do you have any interest in Zack Wheeler?
No, I'm actually really light on this game.
Yeah.
All in all.
I don't think I disagree. I have one 6-man stack of the Braves, one of the Mets. I don't really have either of these guys in a 5-man. Not much standing out. Josh Donaldson is $13, projected to hit in the 2-hole, getting 17% expected ownership. So while I understand that as a cash play, I would look to use a different third baseman in GPPs if you're looking for a one-off. Nimmo projected for 16% ownership on Yahoo, $14 outfield option. Again, I think that works fine as a cash one-off outfielder. I don't really recommend that as a one-off in a tournament. Otherwise, no one else is getting any projected ownership, and I don't really think that they should.
Yep, I would be on board with that. If you feel the need, now it's going to be close to 80 at first pitch here, and we know that it seems at least that SunTrust plays a little bit more favorable to left-handed hitters than righties, though not quite as dramatically as we thought after the first half of the first season. But Nimmo, as you mentioned, at 14 is good. Cano at 15 is fine. And then if you want to be completely different, if you go to Conforto at 24, if you go, again, look at the price list, you're going to see the Boston guys, Harper, Yelich, all these other big names around him. He won't be on anybody's radar tonight, but it's an adequate spot against Kyle Wright. It just all depends on how good of a member comes out of the bullpen, depending on if Wright gets really torched or if he only gives up 3 or 4 and they still bring in good relievers.
Alrighty. I wish we had more. Go Braves.
Oh, I forgot you were a Braves fan.
I am even wearing that Braves hat right now.
Well, congratulations on locking up your future for.
I'm not happy. I'm not even happy about that. I feel bad for him.
I feel bad for the players. Well, and two, so I'm obviously a Nationals fan now, but I was a Mariners fan before. I moved out to DC and I just couldn't stay up late enough to watch crappy baseball. So hey, I could watch crappy baseball at a reasonable hour with the Nationals. I, of course, moved out here after the incredible run of the Braves, making 14 straight division playoffs or whatever.
Good time.
So
only one World Series, unfortunately.
Well, that's okay. I mean, they got one.
Baseball World Series are really hard to win.
They're hard to get to if you're Mariners or the Nationals. Only 2 teams never to have made it, Josh. But
yeah,
I'm a little unhappy now that the Mets seeming to be not quite the LOL Mets, that the Braves now have their stuff locked up and the Phillies have a veritable all-star team. If you're a Nationals fan, it's tough sledding, baby. It's tough sledding.
Bill Simmons does a podcast for The Ringer called The Rewatchables, where they just kind of talk about old movies. And they just did Major League this week. It's the 30th anniversary of Major League.
Love that movie.
Oh yeah, fantastic. So they were talking. They have segments for every one of these. One of the segments is, would this movie or could this movie succeed as a 10-episode Netflix show, reimagined now? And I was like, yeah, that could be really fun. But he made the pitch that he didn't think that they could use Cleveland anymore, that they would have to go to a different city, and they recommended Seattle because they have no culture of winning. I just wanted to point that out to you. That you mentioning the Mariners reminded me.
That's okay. They have the Seahawks.
Yeah.
At least till Russell Wilson takes his talents to the Big Apple,
Sure.
Or Sierra takes her talents to the Big Apple and he follows,
or lack thereof.
Yeah,
talents, that is. Rangers and A's.
Is she a singer or an actress or a?
She could act. I have no idea. She's certainly a singer. That much I could tell you.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I liked her music in 2003 when I was a high school kid or early college. I could not tell you anything she's done recently outside of be married to Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I didn't know who she was, so I didn't know. I mean, I clearly had heard the name. I just, it's like a Kardashian. What exactly is it you do again? And not for her, not taking away from any talents or anything like that. I just didn't know because there are just so many people out there now.
Not your wheelhouse,
Yes, that is true. She's cute.
Yeah, really attractive girl. She's done well for herself. Rangers and A's, 5.2 run implied total for the Rangers, 5.3 for the A's. Big time scoring game here. Drew Smiley on the hill for the Rangers, $27. Mike Fiers on the hill for Oakland, $34. Neither guy projecting for any ownership. And That seems perfectly correct. I have no interest in either one of these guys. What about you?
Nope, waving them off. We've got warmer temperatures. It's changed a little bit from what they were forecasting last night, but it should still be in the nearly 70 at first pitch here. We've got two pitchers that are not going to put the fear into anybody. You've got Mike Fiers, who in his first start and his last start combined for 4 2/3 innings, 17 base runners, 11 earned runs, 2 home runs, 5 strikeouts. That was against Seattle in Japan, and then against Houston. And then his 2 starts in between, he had 12 scoreless innings against the Angels and Red Sox with 9 total base runners and 5 strikeouts. I don't know what he's going to do, but I'm going to bet on the Texas Rangers, who I have as my number 3 or 4, depending on how you want to count it, stacked tonight. Now on Yahoo, with their unique pricing, I think Rougned Odor is an amazing play at second base at $10.
Yeah, he is projected for 44% ownership right now.
Okay, well, I didn't know he had ownership percentage when I was writing these articles, so now I have something I can cite and look at as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's someone, he just has fine power against opposite-handed hitters. And then I think you can give strong consideration to Joey Gallo. We're really playing for the home run, but he's tucked into that price point where I've already mentioned multiple times the 8 other outfielders that are between 24 and 28. I think he's going to get a little lost in the shuffle. And then Chu and Mazzara and even Elvis Andrus, if you want to be in there against Fiers, is decent.
Yeah, both of these teams projecting to be really chalky. Multiple guys in the double-digit ownership. They came up as my number 2 and number 3 stacks in terms of 6-mans. Just really easy to get here because of the expectation of runs and the lack of pitching talent. As you mentioned, Odor, he's one of the best options in this game. To me, he's the second best option in this game behind Kendry Morales, who is a $7 first baseman and mashes lefties. So he is probably my favorite play on the entire slate if he's in. Let me make sure that. Let me see if that's true. I want to see if he ranks number 1. Yeah. Yes, he is. He is my number 1 play on the Yahoo slate today. If he is in this lineup. A $7 first baseman. I like that ceiling, particularly against the lefty and Smiley. But I would be stacking up both of these teams. I find them really difficult to ignore. A's have been crazy hot as of late. I don't think that Drew Smiley is going to slow that down in any form or fashion. They are just set up to mash here. And I think that the Rangers are uniquely set up to do the exact same thing to Mike Fiers. If this game were in Oakland, it'd be a totally different story, but it is not. I love both teams.
Yeah, I'm on board. I mean, we're looking at, 11.5 implied run total at this point?
Yeah, it's massive. Massive. Keep your eye on this game. They are chalky, so they look a little bit better in cash than they would in tournaments, but if you do want to use these teams in a GPP and you're manually building, which is more applicable in Yahoo, if you do get to a big Ranger stack or A's stack, I would try to get your other 2 hitting spots to be a little bit less popular, or a little bit less popular from the pitching perspective, because these guys will be popular as a stack. Royals and Indians. Royals 3.4 run implied total. Indians 4.1. Brad Keller is on the hill for Kansas City, $36. Carlos Carrasco on the hill for the Indians, most expensive pitcher at $52, and that is exactly how it should be. He is the clear best pitching option of the day. I think that is regardless of salary. We have him projected for the most ownership. He should be the first thing you plug into a cash lineup. I think he looks absolutely fantastic here. Tons of strikeouts in the Royals lineup. The lowest implied total of the slate. Every sign just points to Carlos Carrasco. Do you have any differing opinion there?
No, not at all. And even at 52, when, again, as I mentioned at the top of the show, you're going to see the really, really, really good pitchers close to 60, 61. So that this is even a fair price for him going against the Royals, who do strike out more than what we've been used to in the last couple seasons with just the way they're built these days, which is interesting. They also don't have a ton of power outside of Ryan O'Hearn and Soler, but Soler doesn't do very well against righties.
No.
So this is phenomenal. The other little quirk is that Carrasco actually does better on the road than he does at home. This is something that has held true for the last 4 seasons. If you go back 2, 3, and 4 seasons ago, it was nearly 10 to 15% in every category. He was 10 to 15% better on the road, which is fluky as hell.
Yeah.
But I don't know why, because it's one of those, and this is one that Adam and Laffy and they've talked about ad nauseum. There are just certain guys in certain parks that seem to work well. Occasionally, you get the Angels, one of their, like Weaver pitching with his where his arm came out and the rock pile behind him, and causing some issues with the batter's eye, etc. Perhaps somehow the way Carrasco pitches, he goes to the good part of the batter's eye or something.
Yeah.
It's really weird that it's been that sustained and that long, or it just could be some fluky extended, amount of noise, like a hit streak or a no hit streak.
Yeah, I'm gonna have quite a bit here. Who's my most exposed pitcher on my first Yahoo Crunch? I'd anticipate having him in, I don't know, 4 or 5 of my 10.
Okay, I was figuring you'd get pretty close to half.
Yeah, somewhere in that neighborhood. Or at least I'd be trying to. I have no interest in the Royals bats. I guess you could talk me into Mondesi, but he's $26. So even one-offing in this spot is really difficult. They don't look appealing at all. I don't even find the Indians to be that appealing. Only Leonis Martin and Jose Ramirez are garnering any real ownership. Jose Ramirez, $15 option at third base, projected for 15% ownership. I agree with it. I think he's pretty clearly the best bat in this game. But I'm not really excited about rostering bats in general. 4.1 run implied total for the Indians is really low. This is not a fantastic Indians lineup. What do you think about Jose Ramirez?
Well, I'm busy looking at photos of Sierra because the chat was saying something that made me think I was thinking of the wrong person. No, looks fine.
Yeah.
She's a perfectly attractive woman.
Yes, she is.
All right. Sorry, what was the question again?
How do you feel about Jose Ramirez? He's really the only guy that looks good.
Yeah. So $15. So he's my guy. Lock him in unless you're going to play Rafael Devers as part of a Boston stack. Last 2 years, he's been number 3 in the AL MVP voting. How can you go wrong with that? $15. I'm in.
Roberto Perez grades out as an okay catching one-off option at $7, but there are way better options than that. I think we can move on to the next game.
Yes, please.
Diamondbacks and Padres. D-backs 4.1 run implied total. Padres 4.4. It's Luke Weaver for $27, and the Diamondbacks going against Chris Paddock, $45 for the Padres. Paddock has really big stuff, but he's just simply too expensive for me. 3rd most expensive pitcher on Yahoo, so he's not getting any ownership, and I don't expect him to. Luke Weaver is the 4th cheapest, or technically 2nd from the bottom. Everybody is at $25. He's next at $27. I think he grades out as a really nice dollar-for-dollar play if you want to spend down. I have softened my stance on Weaver since the earlier show. I had him projected for too many innings, but I think he's a nice value option. Do you have any issues paying down for Weaver or any interest in Paddock?
Paddock's someone that I'm looking forward to seeing the deep dive come out from Laffy today. At 45, he's enough of an unknown. I'm uncertain. Now, when I say he's enough of an unknown, yeah, he's got a pedigree, and we think he's going to be pretty good. And he's a young guy, and he's got two major league starts across 8 2/3 innings. So I'm not dismissing him there, and it's a reasonably okay matchup against Arizona. I'll have to check and see if the roof is open, but the price keeps me away from him just as much as the price is drawing me to Luke Weaver, who is someone I am not overly excited on, and I'm essentially out. Kramer, this is the contest episode. I really want nothing to do with Weaver. He just gives up way too much contact. He has too many base runners, and it's a mess. Yeah. And I think he had some very, very good starts when he first came up. And so we all thought he was going to be the next Michael Wacha, pre-injury Michael Wacha, and he's really not. He's a fine pitcher, but he's not I want to get him in my lineup pitcher.
That makes sense to me. I think that he's underpriced for the slate. He's actually my 5th most exposed pitcher at 17%, which is right along with the projected ownership at 16%. I'm fine with that. He's basically just a conduit to get to more Red Sox stacks, and I'm willing to do that if it means that I get more Boston.
All right. Hey, for everybody listening, file this one away. Chase Field roof is scheduled to be open through Sunday.
What about the roof on the Yankees game?
I don't know that we've ever seen the roof in play there.
Yeah, I don't know. Weird.
Where's Dave? Was that Dave?
It was Dave. It was Dave. I'll make that joke for the entire season.
He, honest to God, thought there was a roof, though.
Yeah. I don't know if that's better or worse.
Oh, I don't know. Well, it's like there are, even up till last year, there were other analysts on other sites that thought Seattle was an enclosed stadium.
Not in a while.
No, it's not since the Kingdom went down in 97.
Yeah, it's been Safeco for a hot minute.
Yeah, it's truly a carport there. It does literally nothing for the temperature, and that's something you really want to remember, because it gets cold and the wind still comes through there because it's closer to the water. It's basically next to the train tracks that run through the industrial part of, they call it Sodo area, which is south of the dome of the Kingdom that's no longer there, and it's a playoff Soho. But
gotcha.
In any event, yeah, the only thing it does is keep the rain off. That's all.
Bats in this game, Eduardo Escobar and Eric Hosmer both projected for 8% ownership. No one else getting any love. I don't mind the Kinsler, Hosmer, Machado, Renfroe group, but it doesn't stand. They're just like fine. I can't imagine really having much exposure to Padres or Diamondbacks. Do you have interest as a stack?
No, and not even for me. It's the prices.
Sure,
just where they're landing. I'm finding other spots, and that's the fun thing about, and especially when you've got your analysts talking about Yahoo, you can only play 10 teams. It's hard to get a little sprinkling of everybody when you're playing just 10 teams. So we'll be crossing some people out, or if we say, you're going to have a little, it really means you're probably not playing if it's a position player, or you're having them on one lineup. Yep. So just know who's talking about Yahoo and who's probably playing there, and know who's just utilizing other baseball analysis, which will apply, but won't always apply to Yahoo because of their unique pricing.
All righty. Moving on. 3 games to go. Dodgers hosting the Brewers. I'm going to whiff on this again. What's the proper way to say Urias?
Urias.
Okay.
Urias.
Yeah. Julio Urias. Going for the Dodgers.
Told you it was like Ustaven.
Yeah. That I got, though.
Well, that's good, because there's also Luis Urias, who is a position player for the Padres. So you're going to have multiple opportunities to say this name. You failed to see the humor in that.
No, sorry. I was reading something in Slack, actually, that caught my eye. Just something that I didn't expect to see. Corbin Burns is going for Milwaukee, who I have zero interest in. How do you feel about Urias today? $38 mid-tier option, only 4% expected ownership. I think he's got some upside at that price tag.
He absolutely has upside. I think, what is he now, 20 or almost 21? When he came up, he was like 19, and he came, if I remember correctly, it was like an late July or August call up, and they were very judicious with his innings and his numbers. They're still that way because it's the Dodgers' way of doing things, and they have the bullpen that allows them to do this. So that's the only worry, is you're hoping he gets an efficient five innings and change. But he's really going to need to get a strikeout per inning, and that's no guarantee against this lineup. So I think he's absolutely fine in tournaments, particularly for his price. He's like right in the middle there, and I would prefer him than saving the $6 to go to Wade Miley, or the $5 to go to Wade LeBlanc. So he would, if I'm building 10, he would probably be on 2 or 3 lineups.
Yeah, I got 10% of the 150, so I would say that I would probably have him in 2. Naturally, as you can shrink that down to just 10, you're going to prioritize a little bit more. So yeah, I would guess that I would have him in about 2, and I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah.
As for bats here, we have 3 guys standing out from ownership: Jock Peterson, Corey Seager, and Jesus Aguilar, all at 15 to 18% expected ownership. No real love as big 5 or 6 man stacks. For me personally, I did not get to these teams either. If I'm trying to point out bats that I like, it's Jock Peterson for sure, Jesus Aguilar for sure, and then even though it is lefty-lefty, if Travis Shaw is in the lineup, he's a $9 third baseman with legitimate power. Doesn't have to see a lefty the entire time. I have no problem going to Travis Shaw if he's unowned. I think that's decent home run upside.
I think that's fine. Was he carrying a questionable tag? Let me see.
Certainly could be.
Let's look real quick here. Just because, but they get the DH. Oh, wait, no, they're out of Anaheim, so they don't get the DH again.
Right.
Shaw was diagnosed with a contusion in his right hand after leaving Wednesday's game against the Angels. He was hit in the hand by a pitch from Felix Pena, blah, blah, blah. Brewers calling him day-to-day. Would not be a surprise for him to miss a game or 2. Keep in mind, Milwaukee has a day off on Thursday, which we just mentioned. So we don't know for sure. But just be cognizant of that because this is one of the later games. So if the Brewers are holding their lineup or they're one of the last-minute lineups, it probably means they're trying to figure out if he's going to play or not.
Yeah.
And anybody else you would expect to be projected in is probably safe.
Yep. So. Yeah, otherwise I don't really need to stack this team up. Either one of them. Sorry, Dodgers. 2 to go.
Corbin Burns, son?
Not for me. For you?
No. I was trying to do a Corbin Burnson joke there.
That was good.
I was trying. Major League. Chat reminded me that I guess technically it does sound like Corbin Burns.
That's what I called him the first time that I read it. Not today, but in the previous strategy show. This one's for you. Mariners and Astros. 4.1 run implied total for the Mariners. 4.9 for the Stros. Wade LeBlanc for Seattle, $33. Wade Miley, $32. The battle of the Wades. And in this battle, I suggest that you take neither guy.
I would not really be looking to the pitchers, but there is a 3-game slate. That's the other thing a lot of people don't realize at Yahoo. They run contests at every lock point. So they'll run them from 7 o'clock through the end of the slate, 8 o'clock through the end of the slate, 10 o'clock through the end of the slate.
Yep.
They do this on Sundays as well. So they'll run them at 1, 2, 3, 4, and then if there's enough for a late one, they'll do it. People miss out on that. Now, they're not giant contests, but if you're jumping in, a $25 single person 72 or single entry 72 person contest that has 51 people in it, that's a good deal. So pay attention, understand what's going on there. And that's another way I've picked off a few extra bucks for my pocket, which one then helps you try to take a shot at some of these bigger field ones.
Yeah.
It helps fund that. So it's just something to keep an eye on, but you'll want to have your team ready and just know as they get more and more popular, there's other people waiting and watching. So depending on how many spots are left, they all of a sudden you think there's, oh my gosh, there's a 20-man with 12 people and there's 4 minutes to go. It'll probably go off with 18 or 19 people. It won't be totally full, but it won't be empty as you think it will be. But to this one, Josh, we've got so I did some number digging with Wade Miley. So do you think Wade Miley good, Wade Miley bad? Wade Miley, what is your initial thought? And this is sort of a trick question.
He's like a hair below average.
Okay. He's more, there's a lot more dichotomy in his outcome. So you get a lot of people that think he's really bad, or you get a bunch of people that think he's okay, or he always screws me when I stack against him. So so last season he had 16 starts.
Okay.
How many do you think he allowed more than 3 earned runs?
8.
None. He allowed 3 or less in 16 starts, all 16. He only allowed 3 home runs on the season. All right. Then go back a year, 2017, 32 starts. How many had 3 or less?
3 or less?
3 or less.
8.
15. So half his starts were still 3 or less. Now, in 8 of them, so a quarter of his starts were 5 or more.
Okay.
Those are the ones we want. And then in 2016, again, in half his starts, he allowed 3 or less. But again, in 8, he allowed 5 or more. So the point being is he doesn't strike out a ton. When it goes sideways in a big way because he leaves runners on base.
Yep.
He gives up home runs in those games.
Yep.
So last year, I think, was a bit of an outlier. The fact that he did 16 straight starts with 3 runs.
Yeah, that is quite the outlier.
Come on.
That is quite the outlier.
But wanted to point out that there are times when he's and more often than not, he's not going to self-destruct. But when he self-destructs, especially in 2016, 2 years back in 2016, I think 4 or 5 of those games were 7 or 8 runs. So those are big numbers. So those are the ones people remember. It just doesn't. It's not a gimme. Now going against the Mariners here, did you know the Mariners lead the league with runs scored per game, as well as the best record at 13-2?
I had no idea.
They are 13-2, and almost 7.8 runs per game.
I did not know that whatsoever.
Next closest, did I keep that? Oh,
I gotta assume Oakland is pretty high. I know Boston's been scoring a ton.
Oakland and the Dodgers were up there.
Okay,
I've closed my.
Yeah, I don't know anything about their records of any single baseball team. I have no concept of who's winning or losing.
Wait, this will be my last chance. Probably, I'm going to wear the Mariners hat while they have the best record in the league.
There you go. I'll say this much though: they don't look appealing here on Yahoo. No one grading out well whatsoever.
No. So late night stack for me only. That was all I could come up with on this one, and it was again cautionary tale. It's not a gimme against Wade Miley. So
for the Astros, I don't see them as particularly stackable, but I do see them with multiple one-off or two-man stacks. So Springer, Bregman, Correa, Tyler White, if he's a $10 first baseman, I think carries a little bit of appeal. These guys are going completely unowned. 1% Springer, 2% Bregman. I like using these guys as one-offs. They're definitely expensive, but if you're using a cheap stack, I think that filling in with basically unowned high-end Astros bats is not the worst thing in the world in this lefty-righty matchup.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty solid. The thing everybody needs to just be cognizant of with LeBlanc, he rarely walks people.
Yeah.
Even against, he has a combined 6% walk rate over his last 1,100 batters. That's pretty stellar.
It is. That's very good. Projects for a 2.9 walks per 9 from Steamer, which is a really low baseline, which means that he's getting a less than that a lot. I think we can close it out. You ready?
Let's do it.
Giants and Rockies. Giants 4.2 run implied total. Rockies 3.8. Drew Pomeranz on the hill for San Francisco, $28. Chad Bettis going for Colorado, $25. If I look at my exposures for my crunch, small amount of Bettis, no surprise there. Like it's a decent game from a run total perspective and a fantastic park to be a part of. I actually got 16% Drew Pomeranz, which is not something that I would have ever expected. There is some swing and miss here in the Colorado lineup, but mostly it's just the low implied total and the fact that they are in a really advantageous pitching park. I don't mind paying down with Pomeranz in this spot. Do you care much about Bettis or Pomeranz?
Well, Josh, judging from your answer and the page clicks, it looks like you haven't read my article here. What was that Major League quote? Judging from the attendance or something.
I have not read your article yet.
All right.
Wait,
so
when did you post it?
Oh, probably when you were doing one of your shows, using a show, or trying to get lunch. Or
no, I haven't had the opportunity to eat yet today.
All right. So this is this is the free article. It goes through half the article is Yahoo strategy, talks about the scoring that we've mentioned, talks about different ways to look at stuff, and just calling out some prices that we'll want to look at and take advantage of. On Yahoo, you don't want to go with Lucas Giolito. On some of the other sites, he's a fine SP2. Not on Yahoo, but you know who is? Drew Pomeranz. So I'll just read this real quick. Scrolling down to the bottom of the pricing list, we have Southpaw Drew Pomeranz, who has 11 strikeouts across 9 innings so far this season. This is the fourth team for the 9-year veteran, and by far the best pitching environment he has been able to call home, having spent time in Colorado, Oakland, and Boston. The Rockies had the number 20 offense last year when adjusting for park factors. So we call that a weighted runs created plus, which basically is an advanced metric that neutralizes ballpark factors to create a league-wide scoring efficiency baseline of 100. So they had 87 last year, which was number 20. That means they score 13% less efficiently than the average team in the same situation. Now, I did it this way so we don't have to worry about righties versus lefties, home or away, but they had the 20th offense. They also had the same WRC plus of 87 the year before, and that was the third worst in the league. So have the Rockies really done anything to improve themselves over the last 2 seasons with today's lineup? No, they have not. So I want to point out that these are not the Rockies that we like to think about. They're going into the best pitcher's park in the league, which has me going to Drew Pomeranz, mainly because he's incredibly cheap. But also there is some upside here. Now he's going to have to negotiate Story and Arenado, and if Iannetta connects, he might in this park get a warning track fly ball. But I like Pomeranz for those reasons.
Cool. Then we're on the same page. He's getting 12% expected ownership, so the public seems to share our sentiment. If I'm looking for any Giants bats, number one priority would be Evan Longoria, $8 third base option, hitting third. I think Brandon Belt would be close as a second. I did not get many full stacks of either of these teams. I think the Rockies look really good in terms of two-man stacks or one-offs, whether that's Jonathan Daza, projected to hit second, $7 outfield option, easy pay down spot. I'll never have any issue going to someone like Nolan Arenado, who's only $18 as a third baseman. That price looks fantastic. Chris Iannetta, if you need a one-off catcher, at the very least, you want to play him against lefties. So I see some opportunity to stack against Pomeranz, but they don't really have the best sort of structure of salary and positions to make it easy. But two-mans look pretty good.
You know, in case you haven't noticed, and judging by the attendance, you haven't. That's the line. The Indians have managed to win a few here and there and are threatening to climb out of the cellar.
Do you have anybody else?
No, I do not.
Alrighty. Let's pick a lineup. What do you say?
Absolutely.
I've got 150 lineups crunched here. Let's pick a favorite. So I can share my screen with you. Actually, no, that's going to take me off the screen. I can't do that right now.
That's okay. I know who I want for. I'm curious to find out if we pick my pitching combo of Rodriguez and Smiley. Rodriguez and Pomeranz. Got 2 Drews on the slate. We had 2 Grays yesterday, 2 Lopez's yesterday. We've got Wades facing each other. Baseball names are fun. What do we have with Pomeranz and with Rodriguez?
So I got 3 lineups of my 150 with Erod and Drew Pomeranz. Do you want to pick out of those?
Yes, and wow, I didn't think that combination would be quite that low. Now I know that's not popularity, but yeah. Wow, I would have thought that combination would have more. I'm hoping there will be potentially a Boston stack in there, or Texas, or Oakland.
Yeah, you got 2 of those 3. So 2 lineups of Boston, 1 of Oakland. The first Boston lineup. We're going to have to throw this first one in the trash, or at least make a pivot, but that won't be a huge issue. And you'll be really happy with this lineup, actually. So it's Mitch Moreland, Pedroia, Bogarts, JD, and Benintendi from Boston. I would go out on a limb and say you're cool with that.
I'm good with that. No bets, but I'm still cool.
Yeah, we have a one-off Matt Chapman as a third base option.
Excellent.
And a 2-man White Sox stack of Eloy Jimenez and Wellington Castillo.
So Eloy is super cheap. I don't think, what is he, like 11, I think?
He is 11.
Yeah.
So we can pivot off of the $7 Wellington Castillo. We have $6 actually remaining, so we can do whatever we really want to in terms of hitting. Even if we wanted to upgrade somewhere else, we can definitely do that. I do like the bones of that lineup.
I think that one's solid, yeah. If we maybe work in bets or potentially look to Devers, you could still go with one of the other 2 $7 catchers that are likely to be on there between Jansen and Zunino, and then you've still got wiggle room. So, yeah, I like that one.
Yeah. The next Red Sox lineup is Christian Vasquez at catcher. You get Moreland, Betts, Benintendi, and Jackie Bradley.
Okay.
It's a two-man Mets stack of Robinson Cano and Ahmed Rosario with
What position was Rosario playing?
Short.
Okay.
And then a one-off third baseman of Alex Bregman.
Not bad. If I wanted a one-off against Wade LeBlanc, it would be Alex Bregman.
Yeah. That lineup projects for 2.4 points less than the first lineup we talked about. I don't find that to be terribly unappealing. And then finally, we have a six-man A's stack. Chad Pinder, Matt Chapman, Marcus Semien, Chris Davis, Piscotty, Mark Canha, with a two-man Jays stack of Justin Smoke and Danny Jansen. And that is projected for 102.9 points. That's a little bit of a step back from those first two. Boston just grading out so well for me, but...
Well, it's because it doesn't know how to count the potential home runs for Oakland.
Yeah.
Do we get 2, 3, or 4? Because that's wildly going to change.
How many home runs will Chris Davis hit today?
Well, if he's trending 2, just like he bats 247, he's going to hit 2 home runs every game the rest of the year.
And nothing else. So if you were picking out of those lineups, 1, 2, or 3, what would be the one you would want to enter into a tournament for all your monies?
I think I would actually go with number 3.
Okay. Yeah, I like it as well. I think that if I had to pick one here, I would go to the second one, the 5-man Red Sox stack with the Cano, Rosario, and Bregman finish. I really like the idea of getting that one-off Alex Bregman lineup.
Yeah, that one's good. I'm not as big a fan on Rosario, so I'd want to see what I could tweak. I would go to Nimmo, but then that would mean we'd give up one of the Red Sox outfielders in it, so makes it a little harder.
Yeah. Easiest pivot we can make, actually, if you want to pivot, I think you might have at least a mild amount of interest here. I can pivot off of Rosario, get another one-off of Corey Seager.
Not bad. He's finally healthy. And I pointed this out on another show, and I didn't have to have a chance to go back and look it up. But I oddly enough, I think he has, if it's not 4, it's 3 home run games. I know one season he had 2 or 3 in one of his seasons. I just can't remember if he had a 4th.
I truly have no idea.
Yeah, but just showing, I mean, he's probably projects out as a 22 to 26 home run guy. But just saying, dude, when he's locked in, he's had some big games out of nowhere. No, I don't know what that is. But just saying, I do like him. Now I got to go look that up.
All righty. Thank you guys for joining us. Fridays are going to be Yahoo days. We will be doing this show every Friday. So if you want to join us and you're interested in more Yahoo information, this is the time to do it. We'll always be touching on them throughout the strategy shows through the rest of the week. I dropped the link again into chat. If you're looking to sign up at Yahoo, please use the link that I just provided. You could use the promo code AWESOMO and get $30 in Yahoo Sports reward points, which are available immediately. They're as good as cash into contests. Shout out to Yahoo for being willing to sponsor this show. We're happy to have them. We'll be doing more and more Yahoo content as we go throughout the season. We will have the deep dive out from Laffy. Could be out now, could be out shortly. We'll have the deeper dive with Adam and Laffy coming up at 5 o'clock. We will have Live Before Lock with Chris and Jake from 6 to 7. Emac, anything else?
Well, I may have to he has 2 career 3 home run games. Okay. My apologies. Well, I don't want to keep quoting the same thing if I'm wrong. So let's get in front of that now.
Sure.
It's 2. But still, that's not bad for a guy who's 20, 24. He'll be his birthday is same week as mine. He'll be 25 in 2 weeks. There you
go. All righty. Thank you guys for joining us. Best of luck tonight. Have a good weekend. We'll talk to you later.